I'm Shaun Fitzgerald. I'm the Director of the Centre for Climate Repair at the University of Cambridge, and I'm one of the Engineering Fellows at Girton College. So what inspired me to do this research in climate repair was actually when I was an undergraduate at none other than Girton College. So I read engineering as an undergraduate back in the late 80s, and I still remember at the end of my second year reading engineering, I was sponsored by a company and they wanted me to go back and do a summer placement. And I was more interested in not doing electrical engineering, but learning about what was then called alternative energy, because I'd learnt enough in my first 2 years that I thought that providing energy for society by burning fossil fuels was just the wrong thing. I didn't know how wrong it was back then, but I knew it wasn't the right thing. So I spent 6 weeks in the United States on a trip that two of us had organised. And we visited so many different installations: tidal power plants, biomass, solar plants, wind farms, the whole lot. And as a result of that, I got the bug of doing something that was going to provide a way of getting us off fossil fuels. And that's where I got into it. And I started in the geothermal industry and then moved into energy efficient building design, that's using less energy in the first place. And then more recently, become aware that actually all of the world's efforts on emissions reduction are not going to work on their own. We needed to go more than just emissions reduction, and that's why I'm back at the university with the Centre for Climate Repair. The area of research that I look after has 3 pillars to its strategy. We call them the 3 Rs. The first is the reduction of emissions of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases to the atmosphere. The second is the removal of greenhouse gases from the atmosphere. And the third we call Refreeze, and it's looking at other climate engineering, climate interventions that we might be able to develop to keep the ice on Antarctica, the ice on Greenland and sea ice in the Arctic, whilst we get greenhouse gas levels down to an acceptable place in society, which is about something like 350 parts per million, according to Jim Henson. One of the areas that I am exploring at the moment with a PhD student is what happens when we go and pour seawater on top of sea ice in order to try and grow more sea ice in the Arctic winter. And we're doing some mathematical modelling, we're doing some numerical modelling as well as analytical modelling, and then we're doing laboratory experiments. So these are scaled down versions not only in the freezer that we have here at the Seawater Lab, but in a walk-in freezer, the cold room at the Department of Applied Mathematics. And then of course, we're also doing field observations. So Jacob, my PhD student, has been up in the Canadian high Arctic just this winter with partners and learning what it takes to actually go and drill holes in the sea ice, submerge a pump into that, and then bringing seawater on top of the sea ice and then measuring what happens over the next few hours and the next few days to the seawater that's gone on top of the sea ice. So we use a multi-pronged approach to just tackling a technical problem, and then in addition to that, we're also working with local populations and stakeholders to try and understand what the human dynamics, the social factors, so multidisciplinary work in terms of public engagement that we need to bring into the fold if we're going to learn whether any of these approaches might work at the end of the day. The impact that we've made in our field so far, well, I would hope that we have at least started to increase our level of understanding about some of these approaches. And then secondly, also helping people become aware that the climate is in a terrible state, but it isn't just a doomsday, oh, therefore we can't do anything about it. No, to actually get people thinking that there are things that intelligent beings, that's what human beings are, might be able to do beyond just our paltry efforts thus far in trying to reduce our emissions in order to create an environment, a climate that's going to be more acceptable for humanity and other ecosystems too. So it's along both of those lines, increasing our level of understanding and level of awareness, that actually we can do rather more.